started. Still red. It's supposed to be red?
Yep.
Then let's get started. Jamie?
Be advised that proper notice has been given by the Township Council in accordance with the Sunshine Law in the following manner. Notice advertised in the Burlington County Times and Camden Carrier Post on January 11, 2017, and posted on the bulletin board on the same date. Mr. Burrell?
Here.
Mrs. Flody?
Here.
Mr. Quartz?
Here.
Mr. O'Connell?
Here.
Mr. Cattrick?
Here. So we have some action items we need to address. The first are resolutions. And the first one is Resolution 2017-194. This is a resolution authorizing award of contract for the purchase of a 2018 Freightliner 1080 SD single axle hook lift truck and appurtenances or equal to Robert H. Hoover and Sons.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Flody?
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mr. Cattrick?
Aye. Next is Resolution 2017-195, approval of raffle license number 531 for the Church of the Resurrection.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Flody?
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mr. Cattrick?
Aye. Next is Resolution 2017-196. This approval of raffle license number 532 for Friends of Ron Payne.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Flody?
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mr. Cattrick?
Aye. Next is Resolution 2017-197. And this is a resolution rejecting all bids for the purchase of 2017 or newer Ford F-550 multi-purpose stainless steel dump body and plow pursuant to NJSA 40A 11-13.2A and NJSA 40A 11-13.2D, and authorizing re-advertising and rebidding.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Flody?
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mr. Cattrick?
Aye. Next is Resolution 2017-198. This is a preliminary TWA approval for Burke and Burke Management, Hunters Glen Phases 3, 4A, and 4B.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Flody?
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz?
Abstain.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mr. Cattrick?
Aye. Okay, so we have approval of minutes for September 12th work session, for September 26th work session and closed session meeting, and October 3rd public meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Flody?
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz?
Abstain.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mr. Cattrick?
Aye. All right, so we have our regular meeting agenda. First of all, item of business is the municipal court administrator appointment. Jeff, do you want to talk about that?
We, as you know, we had a retirement of our municipal court administrator. Colleen Perry is our deputy court administrator. We carried out the review, took applications and resumes, and a process set up by the administrative office of the courts of Burlington County. That includes an interview with the judge, a representative of the Burlington County Administrator's Office, or Administrative Office of the Courts, a sitting municipal court administrator, which was the Edgewater Park, court administrator, the Edgewater Park court administrator, and myself. We reviewed them all, recommended that Colleen Perry be appointed, but the statutes say that council needs to do a resolution for it, so we'd like a resolution to confirm her appointment.
That was the one in the package.
Pardon me?
That was the
Yes,
one in the package?
yes. She's the one that's been, Colleen's been our deputy and has actually been working alone with some assistance from some other court administrators that have been giving us some time, practically since probably August, because of the illness and retirement of our previous.
I'll make a motion to appoint her, if the clerk could give us a number, please.
It will be Resolution 2017-199.
Second.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Flody?
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mr. Cattrick?
Aye. Congratulations, Colleen. Maybe she's watching. All right, next are the basketball courts.
This is mostly for information. During your capital budget, you approved the resurfacing of 2 basketball courts, and Brown Street and Ohio State Court were selected. What we're probably going to do is we have a contractor who's given us a really good price on the resurfacing of the paving, but there's also a top coat where it gets painted a different color. And based on the weather, it looks like we're probably only going to be doing the asphalting in the fall, and then come back in the spring and have them do the top coat with the coloring. So we just want to let you know, when you see it, it'll be safe. They can play on it. We're going to put in, it'll be black like they look now with the white lines. But that's not the final product. The final product will have the painted surface, so it'll look a lot better than that. But we're going to do it in 2 parts because the contractor doesn't feel like he wants to be up against the weather on the second part. He needs some more time. And that's, if he tells us that it's too late to do this, then we'll do the whole thing in the spring.
I was just going to ask you a question. Is that a sealant, or is that just an overcoat? Like, will the weather affect it if it's not sealed?
No.
Just want to.
So, 74 in October is not warm enough? It stays
Right
low.
now, but we haven't given them the go on this yet, so we'll probably be giving it to them at the end of this week. We'll sign off on the purchase order and he can move forward. But we don't want to rush the whole process, so I just want to let you know that won't be the final product. It'll be a nicer looking product in the spring.
Great. Okay, next, based on a letter from a constituent who has a son who's visually impaired, there was a request made for audible traffic devices to be placed on Bridgeboro Road. So let's say that way. Sorry, I had a little moment. So it looks like right now it's in the hands of the county. Were you involved with this, Jim, or Jeff, are you handling this?
I just had a contact with the county after we got the letter, and that's what I just wanted to make you all aware is, first of all, the resident did come to the township offices, and the first step would be with the county to take a look at it because it's county road. But the county wanted to make sure we understood that if they decide that they want to put an audible device on it, that they'll come back to the township for a cost sharing. So it's just to make you aware. They haven't said that they're going to recommend that yet. They're still looking into it. But I just wanted you to be aware of it.
I understood the part about the crosswalk that they put in, but what other traffic signals are they talking about?
They wanted an audible, like, making noise and stuff, so he would know that it's time to walk or not time to walk, and so it was an audible.
Oh, they add that crosswalk? Is
Yes.
that-
I think they want it.
They want 2 things, actually. They want that, and then they want a crosswalk on Pancos. And Jim has put an email out, or did you call him?
Yeah, I emailed,
To ask if that's the county's, under their jurisdiction as
It
well.
is,
It's
yeah.
right there.
No, sorry.
Jeff, do we have audible crosswalk sounds in town already? This will be the first one.
This would be the first
And
one.
then where do you limit, because I'm going to tell you, they may want that whole area where he actually lives, because you got all these other crosswalks in that area. So
Well, the other point I had, and it kind of follows with what Mike was saying, is that the ones I've seen are usually attached to a traffic light. How do you do it with a stop sign, or do you just?
I think they do have them with stop signs as well. I think they do.
What is it?
no, I
I
You
think
don't
this
have
one,
this?
isn't this one?
I've never seen one of these stops. I know it's at the traffic signal.
This is like they have a crosswalk that crosses Bridgeboro.
Yeah, they do,
They
and it's
want
not
to
even,
put some type of,
yeah, it's an awkward situation, and it's a good point, yeah, because the signal on Bridgeboro is just a flashing beacon. It's not even a stop, it's not like a traffic control signal. So, I don't, yeah,
because there's no other traffic lights.
no, so to give I mean, the pedestrian has the right of way in the crosswalk, but, so I don't know.
I'd be curious with the county, like,
I'm curious what they say. I doubt they're gonna to endorse it, because without it, like you said, without a traffic signal, it's giving like the false.
Where do you put it? Yeah.
I don't know the standard.
Unless they're thinking about putting one of those like crosswalk signals.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, I think they are as well. That's-
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeff, I
Well,
don't
in
know
that
if you,
case, then, you know.
I don't know if you heard us discussing that, but I've never heard of that on anything other than a traffic light.
Right.
Or I've never even seen them on, other than the traffic light. All you have at the end of Pancoast is a stop sign.
Right.
Yeah.
And part of this discussion, Jim, I'm gonna put you on the spot, maybe you know exactly what a Jersey wall is. Is that just?
That's like the barriers you see divided, the divider highlighted Route 130.
They call them Jersey walls?
The Jersey barrier.
Jersey barriers is more what they
Okay. See that?
Hmm.
Just curious about that.
Yeah, but I don't understand why you would do, the audio signal if it wasn't a traffic light. 'Cause-
Well, that's the question,
Yeah.
are they make it a traffic light?
Yeah, that's the thing.
I think that's part of the request,
Yes.
that they
That
consider
would
it.
make sense.
And the county is gonna take a look into it and see whether it makes sense to them.
Does he have visual problems as
Yes.
well?
Yeah, that's,
That's the reason.
But the audio is not necessarily it's really just to give you the cue to start walking.
I agree. but
Yeah,
you
not
can't
necessarily
see.
directional wise, so that's the thing, like, whether or not, you know,
they have the ones now, the newer traffic signals, where they start beeping when the light's about to change back.
right, yeah, but that's like the audio cue, because that's what's controlling the vehicles. Here, it's stop controlled, and whether or not the audio is going, that has no impact on the vehicle control.
Right.
You know, so when the
Well, for the
pedestrian
stop
approaches,
sign.
he has the automatic right to start
call. Yeah, but
crossing.
only off of Pancoast, there's no stop sign on Bridge Road.
People are gonna have to
Yeah, but I
stop.
think that's what they're talking about, doing, is putting a
What-
stop
what's
like
gonna-
there is
see-
on 130 for the cross.
What triggers the audio
That's
is
not-
when it's
that's
red
not-
light.
Let's have one conversation.
What triggers the audio is when it's red light. You need a traffic signal, that's what we're trying to say,
Right.
to do it.
Well, he didn't ask for a traffic signal, and we'll have to see what the county comes back. It's their road, so we'll see what they come up with. Um,
Yeah, I'm curious, I mean, with our ideas on.
Okay, we'll table that, we'll continue that discussion when we have more information. Okay, construction code permits. Jeff, this is all you, buddy.
All right, I gave you some information at the last meeting. Actually, I put it in your box because there's been questions been asked, actually from various people about once a permit is undertaken, the responsibilities of the contractor or property owner. And I just wanted to provide this to you from the construction code official. I know I had at least one request for it, but essentially what it says is when somebody takes out a permit, number one, they have a certain period of time that they have to start, and then they have a year, 12 months to commence, and it can be suspended if after 6 months of time there's no work. And that's not the situation we're running into with that property. Also, that there's a 3-year limit on the permit, and then it talks about extensions. So, and what we have, and I've touched base with the construction code official on a number of occasions, is there have been, other than maybe a 2-month period of time, a 2.5-month period of time, there have been ongoing inspections out at that property. So, and this is the Uniform Construction Code, we don't have the ability, my understanding is, to limit this, to reduce it. I mean, it's something the attorney can look into, but that question came up as well. My understanding is we don't have the authority to reduce that to make the contractor do the work any quicker. So I just wanted, because it keeps coming up at meetings, and this is the information I've been given from the construction code.
To clarify that,
Right.
is they have a year to start after they're issued the permit, or the year to complete after
The
they
year to
start?
start,
Can you look into that to see if that is actually
3 years
the
to
case?
complete.
do that.
And 6-month gaps would,
If
it
nothing
could
happens.
be, it could be revoked for
Correct.
6 months.
So this way, once we get that answer to that, then we can put that to rest, rather than just constantly getting asked the same question over and over.
Well, because I did ask, and I asked Jeff about it too, and what came to mind was, remember we had that gentleman from Mountain Sweets Run who had come where somebody had gotten a permit, built an addition, and then kind of intentionally put off the, so that was, it's kind of like, that was kind of what I was thinking, like, this is like more than just.
This is on Diane, I think.
you know, where they just said they didn't get the assessment. They, you know, they're in the house and it's being used, but they didn't have a CO, so it wasn't, they kind of delayed for that whole 3-year period. So, yeah, I would hope that we could do something.
I think the house that precipitated the question, you know, I'm not sure that any of this fits into that case, but we'll get some more details, and at least we'll have an answer at the next public meeting, and we have to discuss it again, I'm sure. Unless anybody has any other questions, let's move on to the next item, and this is the property that had the serious fire that destroyed the second building, the home that was there, the house that was there. I'm not sure anybody lived there, but, and they're looking for a reassessment. Jeff, why don't you fill us in a little detail?
Sure, and there is one correction. I gave you an amount, well, let me discuss it. The current assessment is $331,400. They're going to have a reduction in their assessment already because they've come in and requested a reduction for next year. And the assessment will go down to $212,900. There's still a building and property there, and it's being, I also copied that, although it's kind of irrelevant to the issue, but it's being marketed for a significantly higher amount of money than either the assessment, the original assessment. So there's going to be a reduction of $118,500. So if you want to reduce it for this year as a result of the fire, then the reduction that would be appropriate would be that $118,500. The only adjustment is I gave you what the $4,266 impact would be if it were for a full year. The fire took place in February, so we would suggest you prorate that if you're going to do it for a period of time. It comes out to about, and I'll have the tax office do an exact amount if you want to do this, is $3,878 would be the reduction.
Jeff? 2,000, how much is that? Sorry.
$3,878, and again, I'd have the tax office do the actual calculation, yes.
I looked into this, and when I initially read it, I had a question whether or not the Township Council could reduce anyone's taxes by resolution. I checked with Al, and what we did find was NJ 54.435.1, and basically that says that a homeowner would have an as-of-right reduction if there's the loss between October 1st and January 1st.
Right.
So I don't know exactly what the date of loss is, but it's silent.
It's February.
Okay.
It's after that period.
Okay,
And
so
we've never reduced one, given the circumstances that we're looking at now. I mean, it seems unfair, but we've never reduced one.
I don't think, it's because it's silent, I don't think the Township
We have the
Council has the authority to reduce the taxes. The council would not. What they would need to do is actually file an appeal.
To the assessor.
And it's too late to file an appeal.
So they're really looking at a reduction just for this year?
They were looking for, next year it's already going to be reduced.
Right.
So, but they didn't file an appeal in time for last year, obviously, because it took place after the appeal time frame.
So we're talking about 2017?
Yes.
So what do you do if it happens after the appeal time frame?
If it was February, I think they would have still had time to appeal.
I mean, they should have some recourse if it's after the time frame. What other recourse they have?
Well,
I'm just there.
Well, the appeal
I don't know if they have it.
April 1st, doesn't it?
correct. So,
So if
the
it
fact
happened in
that they,
February, they didn't have the time to get it in by April.
I can't speak for them. They didn't file an appeal.
they didn't file an appeal.
Okay, so they
and
could have then.
That's
I
all
thought,
that-
yeah, I thought it was past the time frame, so it's not past the time frame.
As far as
I got it.
council passing a resolution affecting someone's property taxes, you don't have the authority to do that.
That answers the question.
So I guess technically then, you know,
And that's what I thought, and that's what I told them earlier, but I think they asked to follow up, so I did.
well, that's the way it is. That's the answer. You just tell them our attorney clarified it. Do we need to put a letter, send a letter to them?
I can do that if you'd like.
You want him to send a letter?
Sure.
Okay, everybody take a deep breath. Let me preface this with Jim has started a conversation, and this is about the road programs going forward. He's given us a bunch of information, but it is the first preliminary draft. It's not our road program for any, I mean, we're just looking at these roads for the first time. I'm sure, as in every year in the past, council will request that Jim and Jerry visit some additional roads that we're aware of that may have missed the sweep. And none of these numbers are really more than just general estimates, because Jim needs to core some of the roads before we really have any of the details. So with that said, Jim, I'm going to give you the platform and ask if we can just let Jim present this for the 5 or so minutes that he needs, and or longer.
Here's the map I sent out in an email. I don't know if anybody had a chance to look at it online, but
Jim,
I printed out the big
I
size
was
copy.
confused about a couple of legend items.
Okay, yeah, that's what I want to go over and clarify. So the map is really here just to, give you an idea of what we've done over the last, or what you've done over the last 10, 15 years, or what's been done over the last 10, 15 years, either through the road program, through DOT grants, and by private developers, building and paving roads, and just general infrastructure. So you see how everything's being laid out. You can see the areas in the different neighborhoods in town, and which roads have been done, which roads are still left to do. And then I know we've been talking about over the past few months. Generally, the road program in the last 5-10 years, it's kind of been a selected road in various locations in town, which we generally probably thought would be the worst. And there's always been a question on this: how does that impact the price of the project? When the contractor has to mobilize 3-4 different spots throughout town, does that drive up costs? And the general answer is yes, but it's hard to quantify that. We do hear from the contractors saying, well, if these were all blocked together in one neighborhood, you'd probably get a little bit better, pricing, because we could do 1 or 2 roads in a shorter period of time rather than have to remobilize all the equipment over from one spot to another. So, with that being said, understand though, because we have started, because most of the time we have done roads that were selected in different areas of the neighborhood. If you wanted to start doing a block road program, it's going to take time to transition that, or we can then just continue to doing select roads in different wards and districts or neighborhoods, if you thought that was successful. So this is kind of just to give you an update how many roads we've done. So there's about 50 miles of roads in town. 50. Yeah.
Municipal roads.
Yeah, municipal roads. And over the last 10 years, but you've done about 11 or 12 miles, and that's through your own funding and DOT grants, things of that nature. So you've been spending about $600,000 per mile, on those projects that were completed. So about 50 miles of road at around $600,000 per mile. Over 30 years, you're looking at $1 million a year to repave all your roads, over a 30-year period. I think that number actually will come down, because as we move along, right now we've been tackling a lot of the older roads that didn't really have a base course. See, most roads should be built with an asphalt base course and an asphalt surface course. And in the asphalt surface course you can replace easily. It's when you don't have a base course, first of all, the road deteriorates faster, and second of all, it's harder it makes more money to rebuild it. So most of the roads we've been doing over the last 10 years have been full reconstructs. We have been finding roads that we just were able to resurface, like Greenbrier we were able to resurface, Forge we were able to resurface, and other roads. So we feel as we get into the more newer sections, which would be mostly of, I want to say northern Tempe Chase, like Farmington, Sharrowvale, and like Dorado and Redstone Ridge, I think we're confident we're going to start finding a lot more base course out there. So the cost per mile is going to come down, so that's a good thing. The Main Street, Chestnut, Brown Street area, those are older streets, so we're concerned that those are still going to be reconstructed. And then definitely River Drive and Norman and Alden are most likely going to be reconstructed. So I gave you a list of roads that have been on the list for a while, or have been, identified us as needing of, rehab. We looked at most of them, there are already some we have to add onto that list. I know Ithaca and Juanita need to be added, those are in pretty bad shape, and we gotta look at Janeway and Cooper, I need to add that. I don't know if you've seen anything, you guys live here, you hear from the residents, look through our road list, if there's something we're missing that someone might be concerned of, that it's in bad shape, let me know now, because we're getting the cores done over the next 2-3 weeks, and if they can let me know soon, I can get a core for that road, so it would help give us the cost estimate, and we'll look at it, we'll give it an evaluation, so. From there,
So Jim, on the map, there are a number of roads that are red
Yeah.
lined, but the legend says that completed is black, but the red ones are,
I don't have a legend for the actual solid red lines, because those are the ones that are supposed to be, those are the ones that we repaved over the last 10 years. The black lines were done in 1995, so I wanted to
so
identify
they were done, so that was done prior
to the last 10, 15 years when, it looks like a project was done in like 95, and then there was a period where there was like nothing done.
Yeah.
And so I'm starting back forward to the point where the road program was kind of actively started every year, where every year there's been a road program and DOT grants and things are starting to get tackled. So that's why I'm trying to, the real start date is, for this map, all the solid red lines is around, mid-2000s. I just wanted to point out that in 1995, those roads were done and they're still in generally okay condition.
So the red ones are done, they were just done at a different time of frame as the black ones. So the red and the black are both done.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say something. I mean, I see we've been doing very well. I mean, we definitely have a great road program, and I like the idea of when we do them, we concentrate in that area and stay in that area, so it doesn't cost much more. So that process is good. My concern is there's some areas here that are old areas that are in very bad shape and have been that way for a long time. I know over in Ward 1, the roads are very old. I know that the ground in Ward 3 isn't in good shape,
Yeah.
which causes the roads to deteriorate. But I also know over, and I'm gonna mention again about the Janeway area and that area is all original. And I'm gonna tell you, we have never hit anything over there, and I'd like to see us hit a little bit over there, okay? I don't care where else we do, but we haven't done anything over there, and it's probably one of the oldest areas, and some of those roads are awful. Janeway is just atrocious.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna tell you, I have no problem in staying in concentrated areas, but I'd like to see a little bit done over in that spot over there, because it's original and it's in very bad shape. Other than that, I have no problem in concentrating in one or the other areas. I did an analysis of the roads, and I'm just gonna tell you, what I see here is, it seems like up until 2013, it was a fairly decent spread of all 3 wards. I know we're not doing wards, but I'm gonna tell you, over the last, since 2015, just looking at the list of roads, we've done 11 over in the Tempe area. We've done 2 over in Ward 2, which were very small roads, Loudon and Cleveland, and we did Cleveland for the fire department. And for Ward 1, we did 4. But over in Ward 1, they're major roads, they're big roads that we did. So we did, I'm just gonna say that was the breakdown. What's that?
It's that mileage though, I think roads is not.
Well, because it's cost, as far as construction costs, but they need to be done anyhow. So I'm just gonna tell you, that's my feeling about this. I'd like to see roads that are the original roads that are in very bad shape get done a little bit, and then we do whatever, but I'd like to concentrate in the areas like we are doing it and not move around as well.
Jim, I have a question. Can you explain the difference between these 2 sheets? Like what's?
The tiered list is roads that we know of that, are, out of all the roads that are still outstanding to be, having been repaved in the last 15, 20 years, that we are generally the worst. And, I gotta tell you, I have to add Ithaca and Juanita to that, and Janeway and Cooper, what? Juniata, sorry, whatever, yeah, Juniata and Janeway and Cooper. But, out of those roads that we know of are, the worst, that are remaining 40 miles, that, we try to classify them into what's the worst, what's the second worst, and what's the third worst. And then you wanna kinda take that list and then, you know, do you wanna just do the top tier, even though it's gonna be all over the town?
Okay,
Or,
that's-
you know, take one from tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, and group them together if they're in the same neighborhood, and tackle that, because the budgets might work out better for you, because if it's a tier 3, you might get away with just resurfacing it, rather than doing a full reconstruct, so.
Gotcha, okay.
There's a lot of
That's,
planning, yeah.
okay, that makes sense.
And then that tier, the list with the dates and that was just a first attempt of
No,
a
I
sample
understand,
of what, you know, kind of
Okay,
like
fair.
blocking it out and trying to make sense of it all.
Yep, thank you.
Jim, there's one road that either I keep missing or that's Greenwood. It's high traffic, the other side, we don't part of the road.
Greenwood?
So it's
Partly in Riverside, partly in Delaware.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
so
Del Rey
Oh,
section.
okay, yeah.
You went past
Yeah.
the middle school and turned right, that's.
Yeah, from Chester to about like Southwick.
Yeah, yeah, it's,
I don't recall looking at that, I can check.
Yeah, it's just that, yeah, it seems like, you know, this is years ago, but it was bad then, but that's like a really highly traveled road. I mean, there's a lot of traffic.
Yeah, a lot of people use it to cut through from Fairview to,
Well, that is,
no idea.
yeah, that is.
that's the official cut through.
Yeah, that is what it is. And the only thing as far as like, you know, and I understand what Ken said, the only other thing that's really a priority for me is that we did like those partial roads.
The intersections?
No, before that, where we were doing like half a road. And we finished them up, like Main Street was finished, and I guess Fox Chase was finished. The only one that's still on that list that was a partial was Brown Street. That section by Simon. And, you know, so that, yeah, it's on there, and that's just the last of the partial projects that we said we probably would never do again. But it was kind of like a concerted effort to clean those up. Now, of course, that kind of fits in where you have Front Street, and you also have Simon Schuster, who put a substantial amount of money, and there's, you know, also cost substantial travel. You know, hundreds of employees in 3 shifts, so, you know, they're also very highly traveled. The other ones that we recommended that are rewarded are the ones that are down in Riverside Park, which are horrible, but I still think that until the Army Corps, you know, until that thing, I mean, you redo the road and then it just rips apart. That, you know, there's a lot of road
Yeah.
and it's a lot of expense.
It's the worst right around River and Norman, right at the lowest point, right by the kind of the treatment plant. And I was gonna bring that too, because you have the county too talking about the bikeway and in the park that they're gonna develop, and who knows what, you know, they might do over there. They might end up doing some of the road work for us, so.
Well, that'll be interesting because part of that's going to be in the street, right? This
Yeah.
Small part of it.
Yeah, and they wanna redo some, realign some curb over there, so.
Yeah, that
We might
be
look
really-
at it then.
Yeah.
So Jim, I have a question about, when we did the big intersection experiment, some of the roads are in that area where we did do some intersections. So are is the intention of the intersection was to extend the life of those roads? I don't know, you know, I live, the side of my house is on Sharrow Vale. I don't know that Sharrow Vale needs it. I know that
Yeah.
Southview and Sharrow Vale intersection, looks like maybe they were playing war games there. That's
Yeah.
pretty bad. But I'm just wondering if, because some of those roads, and it's a great explanation of kind of a northern Tenby Chase, we did kind of try to extend some of the life of some.
Yeah, and I think that, if you look at that, the yearly list, that's why I kind of put Sharrow Vale and Redstone at the bottom of it,
Yeah.
like around the 2020, 21 period,
Right.
just because with those intersections being done, we definitely have more years to them. But I just think in like, within 5 to 10 years, you're gonna have to look at doing that, all those streets in that block.
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah,
because it's gonna
understood.
come, they're, you know,
And
you
it-
can see that they're starting to, you know, oxidize and crack, and, you know, the intersections go first, and then the rest of the street goes
and,
later.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we determined that the soil underneath of those roads is really not.
Well, I know for a fact, like, you know, everything along Waterford and, you know, that from, you know, Westover and Waterford south, those soils are terrible. You know, you know, we haven't really gotten into the roads in the Sharrow Vale, Redstone Ridge. When we did the intersections, it did show clay as well. So, yeah,
Right.
those generally don't last as long as That's what the streets around Main Street and Brown and everything, like, they're all sandy soil, so they haven't been paved probably the longest, but they've held up pretty firmly. They crack and all, but they don't really fall apart because they have a good, strong base under them.
Are you considering doing any more of the intersection, or no, is that done? Because we did a large number of them. Was that done now?
We haven't really considered it again. I mean, I think we've kind of hit them, most of them,
Okay.
if not all of them that we thought were the, most pressing. And doing that work really is gonna help you too, because when you do that intersection, you did the handicap ramps, and that's a big part of the budget.
Good.
So that kind of with Oxford, we did an intersection at Oxford and Winmore, and then, I don't know if you realize, but it actually brought down the project cost in this year. I don't know, the project cost came in pretty well. So it helps with the road program, but I don't know if there's any other intersections out there we wanna just do one or two. I think we hit most of them.
So, other than the one that I talked about prior, this is all part of this general conversation. There are other sections of road, pieces of road, sometimes they are literally just little pieces of road that are bad. Do we have any kind of an option, whether it's inside or outside of the road program? I'm thinking about some of the little, like the road that behind the AutoZone and Throwbacks. There's one little section that's ours, that's bad.
We got that in the contract, we got that in the grant.
I think you're talking about
No,
Thomas,
different
Thomas.
one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, not Fed.
I was talking
Fed.
about that, I'm sorry.
It's just that, it's from here to the door. I mean, it's not maybe a little longer than that.
AutoZone and Throwbacks.
So there's
It
a.
actually would look to you like a commercial entry that belongs to the township.
Throwbacks is on,
Oh,
It's
that
on
little,
30.
that little thing?
If you came in from
It's actually ours.
Hunter's Glen,
Yeah.
there's a little piece of road
I
that
would never
connects you
thought
to
that.
the two driveways into
Wow.
Throwbacks and AutoZone in the back.
It's
Isn't
like,
that
it's like a no, it's like a driveway into
Doesn't-
the,
See this?
it's a driveway into
There's a little
Throwbacks.
driveway behind here that actually belongs to the
Exactly.
township.
Yeah,
See this, it's like right here.
yeah, I
It
know,
goes into
they
the back.
kind of goes.
it's that driveway that goes into
Yeah.
the Throwbacks.
It's in here.
I don't know why that.
Is that bad? Is that bad?
It's just like a
Yes.
paved driveway.
It is.
That little-
Yeah.
Well, I guess we got the grant for, that's on the agenda tonight is to
Can we
repave.
get another
Pheasant.
grant that we could do something?
No, I mean, it's all directly connected. It's all in the
Might be able
CDBG.
to
You might be able to just do it with that.
Yeah, that's it.
And since we're talking
We
about.
will be able to do it with that if that's what you want.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
might
it's
as well.
really, I mean, it's not, it's maybe, I don't know, 50 feet, 40?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I
Yeah.
do, it was,
I thought it was part of the, what is it?
So it's coming
we're gonna
in,
be paving,
it's very awkward.
if later on the agenda, if you're okay with what we're doing,
Right.
we'll pave that with Pheasant Manor.
I got one more for you, that I don't know the answer to this. The road that goes behind what used to be the PNC Bank and
To the kinder care, to
Mancini,
the,
no, Mancini Auto, Advanced Auto.
It's not ours.
Okay, so there's a huge pothole in there. Glad to hear it's not ours, could you send somebody out there to give them the devil of it? You could put one of our
Golden
96
Crown?
gallon trash cans
yeah,
in there.
that's all sliding.
Give the same treatment to that Heritage Square.
Yeah.
Each individual property owner is responsible for their own section.
Okay, so the section that is behind it, the deserted PNC is the section that has the giant, in all, you could put a basketball in it, you probably wouldn't see it.
They're all
It's
over
that
Heritage
deep.
Square, by the post
Oh,
office.
Heritage Square,
Yep.
we've already talked about that. and-
That guy, we've always talked to him.
And anything you can do to talk to them too. So, we're gonna send you, roads or sections or pieces that we think need to be included. You'll reassess, do your core sampling, come back to us with some more tiering.
Yeah, everything, the 15 roads on there are being cored. I'm going to add to that. We're gonna look at Greenwood and I'll probably get a core on it, or, I mean, I'll look at Greenwood. If it's in really bad shape, then we'll get a core. If it looks like it's okay, then we won't, if that's okay. Same thing with Janeway and Cooper. I can tell you right now, Ithaca and Juniata, we need a core. it's pretty
I
bad.
think Jimmy do too.
Remember.
Okay, I mean, that's fine.
The last time Greenwood was done, it was done as a joint project with Riverside. It was not done by one township.
Do we think we can get
Riverside-
Riverside to join in though?
I think Riverside, what, 7 years ago, redid their part of it. But there's a big, like, diagonal crease across the road now in the township.
They did that.
So they might not have to do that.
And the same thing with Lytle.
Yeah, it's the same thing with Lytle.
Lytle,
Yeah,
significant
Lytle.
portion of it's on Riverside.
Lichtenthal is mostly Delray, the last end of it. That's what I was gonna say. So, yeah, Lichtenthal, we've been talking about doing probably for, out of all the roads on the list, Lichtenthal is the one that's been on there the most. You know, roads are added, you know, as things deteriorate differently, but Lichtenthal has generally been there the longest.
Yeah, but it's, you know, you have some roads like that, you know, there's 100, 120 cars a day versus something like Greenwood, which is probably over 10,000. It's a lot.
I understand.
It also depends on condition.
It's a difficult process, and I think all you can imagine.
But I
you know,
think-
you know, there's only so
The
much
roads are
road.
being
Yeah.
ripped up, you gotta do them eventually, you can't just let it just.
But I mean, I think the program has done a lot, and I do still think that if you're gonna do them, to do them in
In a
clusters,
second, yeah, without a doubt, I agree with that.
Probably
So-
in 2008, they didn't do them at all, did they?
right?
There was no roads.
So the, you know,
No, it was over Riverside. This was not as significant. We'll update that.
so the,
Yeah, we did in 2008.
I'll just get this out.
We do it
So,
every year.
I mean, before that.
so
I
the,
remember them doing it.
Oh, before us, yeah, oh.
You did?
I'm sorry.
Here and there.
so, you know, we're making a transition from a tiered program to a clustered program, and it's going to be clunky and awkward at times, and we may have to do the cluster and one emergency or one really bad one. But ultimately, I think we've shifted the direction of the road program from hodgepodge and, you know, what's the, we have to spread it out over the wards because it would be, frankly, in the past, I guess they thought it would be politically expedient. But what I think is more important is that we do it the most efficient way and the most cost-effective way. And not worry about anything other than what makes sense, how do the numbers work, and that will rely on you to give us some information that will help us make the judgment call. These are gonna be judgment and balance calls. We're gonna likely make some people upset and some people not upset. You know, poor, you know, Mr. Pappy on Drexel was upset for the longest time. He waited, he got his road, so, you know, and the Janeway people, you know, we have to make these decisions as, based on what's appropriate. We've always done the right thing first, and then figured out the rest from there. You know, Janeway, if it shows up as, you know, like, to do just Janeway, which is just, what's that, 1 block long or 2 blocks long?
Cooper's the same.
In Cooper, so they're not even, I mean, they're the same neighborhood, but would they be even in a cluster? Or would you have
Well,
to do?
when you look at Janeway, you look at Cooper and Echo and Oneida.
So you'd have to do all of them? If you
I'm not saying you have to do them all, but it would make sense to do them all.
Right.
You know,
And if
someone.
if we could do Janeway and Cooper and just overlay the others, Janeway,
Let's see what he comes back with.
yeah,
You're right.
so
I mean,
Janeway has kind of 2 sections. I was looking at the short section, not
Yeah, there's like a
forgetting
property,
about the
yeah.
long. What is with that?
It's the way the road goes.
Yeah, if ever that one property were developed, you'd connect the roads.
The long one is the bad one. The one that
Right,
comes
okay.
all the way down from Bridge
Okay, I
Road.
was looking at the wrong Janeway. So,
Yeah.
you know, this is gonna be a process. I thank you, Jim, for getting us started on this conversation in October. I don't think we usually start that conversation in October, that I remember, but this is good.
When do we have to, when is it?
You know, that's another, what you talk about is timeline. So
Yeah.
your next workshop is the 21st of November?
No, it's actually the 28th.
Okay, yeah, so the 28th. So between now and then, I should have all these cost estimates finalized. And
Right.
it would be, I would hope on, I guess, on the 28th, that we can start, at least put next year's determination.
Right. So just for the edification of anyone who might not have been at the meeting or hasn't checked the schedule, because of the election and the League of Municipalities where we'll lose some of our staff and some of our elected officials. We are pushing the November 7th, the Tuesday, November 7th public meeting to the next Monday, November 13th. That will be the public meeting, and the 28th will be the work session for November. There will be just one work session in November. It's typically how it's done, and again, typically in December, we have to do some juggling because of the way the holidays fall. So, just so everybody's aware, I know, Jamie, if you had a chance to put it up on the calendar, it is on the calendar, that's the official record of, and we'll advertise whatever we have to advertise changes. You've probably already done it because you're so good at that. Okay. Everybody feel that we've had our first conversation about this, and everybody's got stuff to do. Go out, look around the town, see if there's roads that need to be considered, that maybe, maybe the eyes and ears haven't seen. We can help with that. So that's a good thing. All right, next, the agenda item says banners, but this is really based around what's going on with what we used to refer to as the tree lighting ceremony, which Councilman Burrell has taken it upon himself to see what's going on. I don't know if we'd like to talk about this, Councilman.
Sure, we can do that.
So this is something that what the question he's asking probably needs explanation prior to talk about what you're doing and why we need these banners.
Yeah, I mean, part of the discussion at the RAC level was, there's no, while Facebook is good for advertising, it doesn't touch everybody. So we need some sort of physical advertising somewhere, either some people who aren't on the internet. The discussion came up if we could do banners over the street like other towns do. We could appropriate the cash and get fundraising for, the banner itself. It's just a matter of location and logistics, if that's possible. And then this would be something we'd be able to use for future events. But we just really need physical locations designated.
I think we can allocate the project, we don't have to fund it.
Yeah, I mean,
But-
I'm not concerned about that.
Right, but I just want to know whether
That's fine.
PSC,
So what's the history on this, Jeff? So
We have, well, first of all, I attached the information of the requirements that PSC&G has for getting the banners, which are, what you would expect is they want an insurance certificate, all harmless type stuff. Pretty routine. We have done this before many years ago. I know we did it for Light Up Delran, which partially paid for the lights at the high school football field many years ago, and we may have done it beyond that. But I've got some phone calls, I've been playing some phone tag with the representative from PSC&G with respect to the lead time on it, so I'm still waiting for that answer. And there are some other kind of impediments to getting them over county roads. We're better off if we're not doing a county road, but if we have to do a county road, then there's some extra steps we also have to take, and which could hurt the timing on it as well. But
What were you saying?
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
Right, that was sort of up for discussion too. The
Where
more
do
the
you
better,
think-
but definitely Haynes Mill, was Rep. Conroe, Chester is a county road.
How about Fairview?
Fairview is county
Yeah.
road.
Fairview Boulevard is ours. Fairview Street is county. So in the section that goes through the shopping center,
That's ours.
that's ours.
How do they put the banner up? Do you need a pole on each side, or?
yes,
That's the other
the
thing.
pole on each side. I mean, I know in the past, and that's one of the things I'm waiting on the phone call for, is that there were instances where we had to ask the fire company to get involved with helping get the banners up. I don't remember if it was a PSC&G, it was just a longer lead time, or they didn't do it, but
Yeah.
we
So you have
ended
to
up
pay for the poles and the banner?
No,
The
no,
thing is
we use
existing-
existing poles.
Okay.
But it's not common where you have them on both sides of the road.
And that's what I was going to ask,
No,
because
I hang over across the, oh, you mean
You need
the
a pole
telephone?
inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Tyler,
So
We did, I tell you, when we did it before, we did it, one on Chester Avenue and one on Haynes Mill Road.
Yeah.
That was probably the only two areas we got, but when we did it, I don't think, I'm not sure if Summerhill and the Grand were completely in place back then. So they basically hit those two areas.
And we could do Fairview if we want, not Fairview, Hartford,
Yeah.
because that's ours as well.
We did something like near Otts on Hartford. I mean, you know, you have to kind of pick your spots. This is not something you can put them all over.
Yeah.
But if we,
You don't want to put them in an intersection.
They're not inexpensive either.
But you need a street through the
The
banner.
cost of the banners usually weren't that inexpensive.
No, they're normally, I mean, you get them pretty cheap.
But you know, I don't know if you want to put them over an intersection, maybe.
Could
on
we
the road
also
or-
put a sign or banners, you know, the hill where Conroe and Haynes Mill, where the fire department has?
Right.
Can we, who do we ask for to put something there? Is that the fire department?
right.
Yeah.
So
But,
I mean, that would be one place that we wouldn't need,
Right,
you know, over
I mean,
the road.
there's lots of locations. This is, I mean,
I love over the
having
road.
not seen a banner there since when did they do the lights thing? That was last
Light
time.
Up Delran was my first 3 or 4 years, so between '89 and '92.
Right, so when you see a sign like that, you read that sign. I mean, that is, talk about attention getting. So it would be, you know, one level up for that. You know, again, I'm in Avalon a lot, working with, doing some charity work, and they put signs over there. The Public Works has a bucket truck, but I want to say that they have, is it possible they have steel poles?
Well, a lot of the towns that have downtowns have done some kind of lighting where there's an attachment you can use over there and put the banners over it.
Morristown has the lights. They
So
use
it becomes easier in those
poles.
instances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm
Because they're
saying,
set
black
up, a lot of
pole.
times they're set up
Yeah.
to do that.
Right.
Yeah, they install.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, if we could do, I mean, if we could use the hill, that would take either Conroe or Haynes Mill. You'd want something on maybe Chester. Like if you're thinking two, like
Two
over.
would pro- yeah, two would be
Two or
perfect.
three.
There were two, and again, most of the traffic, other than on 130, which that's a state road, I think, forget that, right?
Yeah.
That was safe, forget, yeah.
You can't do Bridgeboro.
And
So-
you can forget Fairview Boulevard, it's too wide. It's
Okay.
too wide.
Yeah.
Too wide.
The only ones you'd be able to do
Yeah.
is
There's no pole to
Conroe,
hang on.
Conroe, and Chester.
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 Oh, no, Chester we can't do.
Well, we can, it just isn't really.
Oh,
We have to
county.
get
County.
Yeah, but you can probably get the fire department to put on their sign, right?
Well, that's what
Yeah.
I had suggested, but they still want to have it.
So, I mean, there are a number of
We
locations.
could probably put it on Holy Cross's fence, if we can't put it on across Chester Avenue. You
Maybe
probably
so.
ask Holy Cross.
Maybe
put it
something
on-
they'd be willing to do.
Yeah.
So I, I think we, Tyler, if you know, let's narrow down 2 or 3 locations that are
High
easily,
visibility.
easier access, easier to do, least amount of red tape. And I think, and if nothing else, Tyler wants to get the pulse of council to make sure that nobody has a problem
Well,
with
one
hanging
question,
signs.
the RC has the money in the budget?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Well, the money is there for the 3 banners?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about, some of that we're meeting with Joe to go through the budget. There's also the money appropriated for the AA's event that didn't happen, that we can use.
Okay, as long as it's there, I mean, you know, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. This
Yeah.
is something
Some
we've
people-
talked. yeah.
As long as Joe has it in
Donations.
there,
Yeah,
and it's not
absolutely.
affecting the seniors' party and
It's
things
not,
like
no,
that, right?
no,
Okay.
Joe has, I mean, yeah, simply because this is something we'd have to order the banners for the
Yeah.
next week, and,
Yeah.
I mean, the lead time
So-
is coming, we're
So
not
let's,
a month
let's
away.
frame this in a way so that we don't have to wait a
I'd give them
month to
anything.
come back and get permission. So if we can find roads that are possible to do, that don't require additional red tape, that are in town, township-owned roads, then we can get the fire department to do that. Tyler can come up with the funding between the RAC and the AA and whatever else we have to do this. Are we okay to give him, to cut him loose to do this?
With Jeff
Unless some,
and Jerry.
Jerry, I'm sorry?
Yeah, with Jeff and Jerry.
Jeff and Jerry,
Yeah,
certainly.
But David Chase is a tree.
Basically cutting RAC, giving RAC the authorization.
Right,
to do it.
right.
As long as it's within the budget.
Exactly, it's all the RAC, it's
Yeah,
not a council
yeah.
person. the RAC.
Right. All right, everybody's good?
Yeah.
Any, all right?
Thank you.
Okay, everybody's good. So tell Joe and the RAC.
Yep, Joe said he was
Run
gonna try to
like
get
crazy.
here, so.
Happy to see the reinvigoration of that event.
Yep. Taking on a lot of events, so they're excited to
Yeah,
ramp up some of
they're doing a great job.
That's why I
So,
was saying.
where am I? Okay, so, Jeff, you said there might be an update on the bleachers for Gov Deals.
If you recall, we had received a request to remove some bleachers out at the Vermees soccer field. Jerry went out and took a look at it. Quite honestly, we don't really think removing the bleachers provides a lot of space to play because there's a gully there, for drainage. However, two of the bleachers, there's 4 sets, and we didn't think we needed 2 of the bleachers there, so we took out the 2 worst sets of bleachers. And he had somebody take a look at them, and govdeals.com said they would sell if we put them on govdeals.com, so he was just requesting, but probably we're gonna ask for a minimum bid of $250, it's a bid situation. We're guessing that's probably all they'll get.
Are they in disrepair?
Yeah, they're not in great
I
repair.
mean, is it something that you would want to, like, just not move to another park or something?
Correct, there's not really a spot for these bleachers, and they need some work.
The only question that I have is before you put up a minimum bid, I mean, that's like all room. It's all salvageable.
The scrap value, we estimated at $100 a piece.
That was all.
Yeah.
The only
As long as it's
other
over scrap value.
Yeah. The only other question I have is, did we reach out to Tendy and stuff, like, because I know they use, bleachers and stuff?
Actually, I did have a conversation with Larry O'Leary, and they don't have, he's the president of Tempe Chase Swim Club, and he had interest. I don't think they wanted to spend $500 on the bleachers, only because they only use them, really need them once every 17 years for the Tri-County, and they have nowhere to store them, so, but certainly a good question.
So they're not needed like on Leon's line, or like any of those other parks?
Alright, whatever.
Yeah, and they're really beat up.
They need work, they're rusted, they need to be painted, they're rusted, they're not in the best of shape.
Okay, we alluded to this earlier.
You're good?
I included the resolution in your packet
Oh.
tonight, so if you want to adopt it.
That's to put them on Gov Deals.
So we have a resolution in the packet. It would be resolution 2017-200. Good, good to know that we're working. And this would be a resolution of the Township Council of the Township of Delran authorizing the sale of surplus. It says personal property, is that correct? Okay, personal property, no longer needed for public use on govdeals.com as authorized by the state contract T2581.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Flode?
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connor?
Aye.
Mr. Cattrick?
Aye. This year goes a different way. Okay, so the last item on the agenda is the Pheasant Road resurfacing with the CDBG project. Who's going to talk about that? What do we need to do?
Yeah, you got a grant for CDBG, you get every 2 years, this one is for $78,000. We were able to apply for road resurfacing, kind of when we did Roland, 6 years ago now. Because that census district was considered low and moderate. So you did apply for resurfacing of Pheasant and, up into in front of the road we talked about, Good Manor and Pheasant. And we also applied for the handicap ramp at the end of Echo Court cul-de-sac going to the middle school. Is it elementary?
Millbridge.
Yeah, so, we don't think you have enough money in the grant to do both, so, we gave you a fee estimate to do at least a resurfacing on Pheasant and Manor, and then which would throw in that little side street. We need to budget for it, in advance of getting the grant, so because we knew it was coming. And then if you're okay with us focusing on Pheasant and Manor, then we would do that with your authorization. And
What do we need from us anyway?
we would just need a resolution eventually authorizing us to begin engineering and design in the project.
Well, I do have a question.
Yes.
We came in under the grant. Is there anything else we can do on that road?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. I was actually thinking about just saying something. So what I'd say is because they're so early in the game, it's great budgeting for it in advance. Usually you get the grant and have to budget for it later and kind of runs into it. Yeah, sure.
I'm not sure there's an ordinance for this yet.
Oh, okay. That's, okay. Well, depending on how fast we get the ordinance done and get the project bid, and once the bids come in, we know actually how much it's gonna cost, and there's money left over, we can look to see if there's no money to do the handicap ramp. That's what I would say. Other than that, we really have, that's,
Handicap ramp where?
that's the one at Echo Court,
I got you.
unless within the ordinance you wanted to spend your money.
Which we don't.
Well, let's wait and see what we can do.
Well, I guess my question though was, if there's not enough to do both, are there things along Pheasant or Manor that, like upgrades, like curbs or anything that we should do?
Yeah, I mean,
That-
yes, we could include, yes, yes, we probably could.
Just maximizing
Or
You
the
can,
curb
because it's a low modern income structure, yeah, you can,
yeah, I don't.
Bottom line
just
is,
don't
I
need
understand what
any
you're
money in the grant on the spend.
I would recommend the bond ordinance be, I know we have an estimate of the project cost in our proposal, I would just recommend the bond ordinance be for the full grant amount. And then we'll maximize spending that money and improving that low and moderate income census district.
How are the curbs in Pheasant?
They're in decent shape, but something can always be improved.
If everybody's good with that, then we'll ask the bond council to draw up that bond.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody seems good with it? I don't see any no's or head shaking no, so we're good to go. All right, let's do our reports and go from there. Nothing? Jeff, what do you got for us? That is-
Just one item, you authorized a replacement of fire hydrants around the building as a requirement that we have some fire hydrants that aren't working properly and need to be replaced. I just wanted to make you aware the fire hydrant that is closest to my office out on that corner is one of the ones that's going to be replaced, and that pine-like tree is going to have to come down because it's literally hydrants under the tree. So there's no way they can save that tree. So I just wanted you to be aware of the piece of equipment they have to come in to pull this out and reinstall that the hydrant doesn't leave any room. So that's it.
Okay. Jim, have anything for us additionally?
Nothing further unless anybody has any questions on,
Where are we? Are we down to punch list items for the roads? or-
they still have to they still have to finish paving on Main Street and half of Drexel, which it should be any day now. They were out today because of rain, and they were just finishing some concrete last week. So the concrete crew is a little bit behind, so what's holding the paving. They want to come and do all the paving at once.
Right.
So, it should be no later than the end of next week with everything done.
Great, we're getting bonus summer days here,
Yeah.
so let's try not to wait until it's too late.
Yeah, the time
It's
on this
staying.
really worked out well.
Yeah, this would be great.
And the contractors, I'm gonna tell you, they did a great job. All again, it's compliments on how nice the roads are. I'm just telling you.
Great, thank you. I'll let them know.
I've done it so many.
Good.
The people are very happy.
Yeah.
They really are with the road.
I have a pre and post for Oxford. I got to show you. It's pretty.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Good. There was a new resident on Oxford, said, well, this is great, I just moved in, paved my roads. I feel like maybe you did it for me.
Welcome to Delran.
And, yeah, it's the way we like to do
Yeah,
it.
we're
here.
well, yeah,
You move in, we pave your road. Not true. Brian,
That's all right, I heard from the other residents.
Yeah, you're right.
No report. No report, good job. Dan, you have anything for us tonight?
Yeah, just real quick, this Saturday is National Prescription Drug Take Back Day. And the Delran Township Police Department will be taking old prescriptions things that you don't want to put in the garbage or down into your garbage disposals between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m.
Great. Just a question, do they have a drop box for that in the police station all the time? But this is just a great way to draw attention to
Yeah.
it. That's awesome. Thanks, Dan, for bringing that to our attention.
And Dan, what's the time again?
10 to 2.
I think anytime during the day when they're open, you could bring prescriptions in.
Was that right?
Yeah,
That's good.
normal time. Now that you're retired, or at least you claim to be.
Something to
I
do.
think you're harder to get now than you were when you were working. Is that it, Dan?
That is.
Okay. Tyler, anything for us?
Just to piggyback off him, there's the trunk or treat this Saturday, starts at 2 o'clock. To see people there.
Oh, jeez.
That's it.
Okay, Mike, anything?
Just hoping the old kids have a safe Halloween.
Thank you, Mike.
Hope the weather's as good.
Yeah, really. Patty, anything for us? tonight?
Just two things, three things. I got a call from a person whose neighbors are parking on the lawn, not on the driveway and not on gravel or stone, cars parked on the lawn. Now, she did contact the,
Ted's handling
okay,
It's the same
I'm sure it is.
He advised me of one.
It's
Are
new
they new
residents.
residents?
Yes,
Yes.
he's been out there.
Okay, the question she asked me is, she was told that they have to receive a letter, they're gonna have to receive a letter from Ted about this, and her question was, it's against our ordinance to begin with. Like, how long is this gonna take?
It shouldn't take long.
It shouldn't,
I mean,
okay.
it's not like a 10-day notice that we have to do with.
Okay, that's what she was saying, like, why would you have to notice someone if it is already against the ordinance?
Yeah, he'll just make them aware of it if they don't adhere, then it's like,
Okay, all right. And then, Bob Kennedy had a question for me. He was told that the bathrooms at the park, this region, have to be winterized.
I talked to Jerry about that today.
Okay, now what does that mean? He wants to know, are they gonna be shut down?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, the bathrooms are not winterized, the kitchen, the concession
Okay,
stand.
okay,
Yeah,
that's what
the bathrooms
they-
are year-round along with
Okay.
the chase in the middle.
All right,
And I
all
talked to
right.
Jerry today about what he needs to do to winterize the concession.
Because that's what we were thinking for the Christmas, the Winter Festival, the bathroom. So the bathrooms are gonna be open all year long?
The bathrooms have heaters, yes.
They have, okay, all right, and then the third thing is, this year for Veterans Day, I was wondering if the council would be willing just to pass a resolution, like a proclamation, not a resolution, a proclamation, because I felt that last year our Veterans Day was good, but it was not very well attended, especially by the Del Rand veterans. I think Bordentown sent more people than our own township. And so my thought was, in looking at what to do, next year is going to be the 45th anniversary of the last American troops leaving Vietnam. It's going to be the 65th anniversary of the end of Korea. It's going to be the 15th anniversary of the war in Iraq. So I thought, and for World War II, I've been going back and forth. I know that it's going to be 75 years in 1943 that during the war they created the UN, but there's nothing like major in 1943. I mean, there were the assault in Italy and things like that. But I was thinking that maybe next year, because of the anniversary of Vietnam, which make up the large percentage of veterans, Korea, and then some of our younger veterans now from Iraq, we could maybe have a dinner, like take time to get a speaker and have a dinner. This year, maybe at our public meeting, we would have a resolution, a proclamation, and then next year, plan for something because of these anniversaries. I was just wondering if that's something anyone we would be willing to, would that be acceptable, or?
Patty, I have to say that I love having a history teacher here on the council. Wow.
The dates, yeah.
Who knew all that was coincidental? So personally, I think that's a great idea. I think you're right. I think that,
We need to change it, it
taking
has to be
The
changed.
pulse, it was well received, but
Yeah.
we weren't really getting our local folks, and
No.
we were getting fewer and fewer. So, and that happens. They run their course, and it's time to change
People want
gears and do
something
something
different.
different. I'm okay with that. Anybody else have to
Yeah,
change things up?
sounds good to me.
Mike? Yeah.
Okay. All right, then that's what I'll work on.
Great,
All right. And Jamie, do I work with you? for
Yeah.
that? Okay.
great. So, and everything that I wanted to talk about is on the agenda, so I'm good.
Okay.
And the report, Ken, you have anything for us?
I just have two things. I forwarded over to Jeff a grant for radon. Did you forward that to Jim or?
Yeah.
Okay, it's $2,000 for a radon grant.
I'll take, it won't matter.
Yeah. Also, Wooders Edge was supposed to be meeting with the group, and I know we held it off because we had the lead that week. Did we hear anything back from them? Remember the group doing the soil?
I saw the email exchange about tentatively scheduling meetings. I don't think it's ever been finalized, so I'll follow tomorrow and find out what time we're gonna have this follow-up meeting. They're moving along, looks like.
Oh, I know.
That's
Yeah, I
good.
know. You-
Good. Patty, you
I have another
forgot
question
something.
for
You're
Jim.
the-
I just
you're the-
saw-
I forgot something, look on your face.
Yeah, I did. We were talking about handicap spots down at the park, and the handicap spots that are way down near where Jake's place is going to be, people want to know if we can have handicap spots closer. Remember, Jeff, you and I said that we thought about having the first two that come along where going to the field, like if you're coming in to the right, but Jeff even said the hill there is so steep that it might not comply. So the next thought was that if you came down, if you came into the park, and as you start to turn left in front of the snack bar, the first two spots, they're level. Would they be able to be made handicapped? Then you would just go across to the entrance to the park.
Possibly, yeah.
Because that was a complaint all during baseball season, that the people that were handicapped, like the grandparents that come and some of the handicapped, that it's so far away from the actual field.
Yeah, so I think the handicap spaces were originally designed with the original overall master plan for the park, and that had the concession stand and the
Down there.
playground, like right in front of where the spaces were. And it was also assuming the football field was going in with a turf field or something like that. So
Okay.
that, since that kind of, since been adjusted with Jake's Place and the concession was moved over, you could definitely alter the handicap space location. You just have to make sure the accessible route is there, and that can be done.
And who tells
Well-
us would you, if?
Well, we would tell you,
would tell us
what I
if
would
it's
suggest
legal?
is the road, it still needs to be top paved. So when we plan on doing that, we'll look at reevaluating where the handicap spaces
Oh,
are
okay.
when you restripe
Okay.
everything. And if we might have to do a curb cut, but that's minor. Yeah.
Okay.
So then we can just make recommendations to you, and then you'll look at it, see if it.
Yeah,
Where they should go.
you just did, so I know.
Or if you think of a better spot, I just didn't know, like I was
I got
trying
you.
to.
I understand exactly what you're saying.
Okay. Thank you. That's it.
So, last thing, and I just wanted to mention this before we go to public, because I'd like to follow up on things if it's possible, that we approved the minutes for the October 3rd public meeting, and Mr. Gilbert, who was in the audience, asked about a $5 million grant that Willingboro had applied for, and I just want to let you know that we don't fit into the criteria for that. Jim, there would, if you remember that big grant that Willingboro, I don't know whether you told me or Jeff told me,
It's 30,000, you have to have a population of 30,000.
so we don't have enough people. But thank you for the input, but we did look that up.
I have something separate I forgot to bring on my report.
Okay, why don't you do that now before we go to.
Last work session, we talked about the flood control ordinance. I did make the changes, I forgot to circulate them to you, but I did send them, based on our discussion, I did send them to the state to review them. Basically, I just, left it the standard, this is the update you have to make type ordinance.
Right.
And so we do have to adopt it by the 21st, so if you're okay, I would work with Jeff to put it on for introduction at your next public meeting, which would be the 13th. The Monday the
Right.
13th.
Right.
Then with having the public hearing, I guess is that public meeting in December. And then I can circulate it tomorrow to everybody, just the final draft based on the discussion, to start looking at it. This way you have it in advance, well in advance of the introduction. Just with the meeting schedule and November and the holidays, we have to introduce it soon.
Okay, so are we gonna need to have discussion on that, or?
I mean, it's pretty straightforward. They were kind of basically telling you already have the flood control ordinance in effect now.
Right.
All you are is really updating it to say that the maps are being changed to the new date. You have the biggest issue is you're just making the maps, making it reflect the current maps. The maps that become effective December 21st. So you have to have an ordinance that says that as well. Right now, your ordinance says the applicable maps are the 1977 as revised in 1991. That's all.
Okay. So you'll have that, you'll circulate that?
I'll circulate it right away, so you see what the exact ordinance is. If anybody has any questions, just email me. But, yeah, everything we discussed last time at the last work session, I made those changes, and it was really nothing other than just continuing on with what the minimum requirements were recommended or required to enact.
Okay. Anyone else table up questions? No, so you get a motion to open up to the public? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. For the public, everybody knows the rules, we're just gonna go. We have a short group today. Tim, anything for us this evening?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Thank you. Faye, nothing? Bob, anything for us today?
Yeah, Bob Gilbert, 75 Stewart Avenue, Delran. I'm kind of not understanding, is there nothing going on this year for the veterans?
Correct, we're just gonna do a proclamation at the public meeting. So there's no event like we've had in the past. It was kind of the same event over and over again, and we weren't getting many of the local folks. We were getting great turnout from the board group.
Well, the VVA came, because I have a meeting this Saturday, that's why I was, I think why we're not getting the veterans from the local area, because nobody's going over to the VFW or the American Legion and letting them know about it. Because there was, in the past, pamphlets were handed, and I was asked, pamphlets were handed, or pieces of paper with the thing, and I would take it over to the VFW and I would take it to the Legion, and that hasn't happened recently. So I think that's why your numbers are down, because I don't know if the VFW knew when exactly it was going to happen, or the American Legion, or the AMVET post that's in Riverside, that they knew exactly when it was going to happen. So I think notification to the post, I can always tell the VVA, I belong to all of them, so it doesn't, if I have a date, I can attend meetings and let them know what's going on. But unless I know when and where, like now, if you're gonna go ahead with the thing next year and have this dinner, if that's gonna be a done deal thing, if I can get a couple months' notice ahead of time, so I can feed it to the VFW, I can feed it to the American Legion, I can feed it to the AMVETs, and I can feed it up there to all the Vietnam vets up in Bordentown.
We did send flyers out last year to all of the places that you mentioned, because I had them made up. But I think if we do this big event, I would be glad to give it to you a lot earlier, because we'd have to have it a lot earlier. And, I will be working on that soon.
Would you have any idea where you would hold this?
No, we're not, we haven't even started.
Because if you get such a great interest, if you have like 200 vets, you're gonna have some idea where you're gonna hold this. I know it's next year, that's the thing, but I'm just saying, if you have an outstanding
I don't know
turnout.
whether a church hall would allow us to use it, or I don't know about the high school. There might be, we'd have to have it, I think, locally here.
Yeah.
I'm sure your veterans would let us have their place, but I don't know whether, I think it would
They
have
don't
to
hold
be
that
here.
many.
Pardon me?
That hall doesn't hold that many.
Yeah.
The one up in Bordentown only holds like 100 people.
Yeah, so I think we look for a place here, maybe a fire hall, and we would work with the local, the veteran, the veterans here. And invite everybody though in the area.
Let's not worry about its location, let's.
But we will do it.
Well, I'm just saying, because you have to have something in your head as far as like, if you just all of a sudden you get 200 people and you're only looking for 100, you're gonna be in a rock and a hard place.
Gotcha. We have, we got it. I plan events for my company all year long.
Okay.
So we got that. Thank you though, appreciate it. Anything else?
Nothing.
No. Chuck, anything?
Chuck Stahl, 184 Natalie Road. The resolution for rejecting the bids that you did earlier today, what was the reason for that? I know usually like for the public ones, there's actually like a copy of the things so you can see more details.
The lowest bid that was received was incomplete, and therefore it was rejected, and the other bid, the sole other bid, was over budget, so that's ground
Okay.
for both being rejected.
All right, so that's that. And then for the roads, when you're looking over at Greenwood, I believe it's between Chester and the first road after that. If you're coming from Riverside towards Chester Avenue, there's some like really like major like kind of holes in the road on the well, like where you would park the cars. Because I go running and I go down Greenwood sometimes, and so there's some pretty bad spots there that you don't want to
Okay.
see while
Yeah, I
you're
hear.
looking through it. And I've been running through where they've been doing the stuff over in Drexel, and everything's looking very nice.
Great, thanks.
Nice.
That's it.
Nice.
No, it doesn't really.
Great.
Sorry, Jake.
Is that it? You good?
Yep.
All right, good. All right, so we have no one else here, so I'll ask for a motion to come out of public.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We're back in our regular meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Wow. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.